Hold on. Stop whatever you're doing right now. Because if you are a Chicago Bears fan, if you have been riding with this team through the heartbreak, through the mediocrity, through the decades of waiting for next year, I need you to understand what just happened at Bears minicamp. I need you to feel it, not just hear it. Because the Chicago Bears just wrapped up their off-season program with a level of energy, a level of clarity, and a level of genuine excitement that this franchise has not had in longer than most of us wanted to admit. And I know what you are thinking. You're thinking it is just minicamp. The pads are not on.
So any cover out,
nobody is getting hit. Anyone can look good in shorts. And look, I hear you. I respect the caution. The scars we carry as Bears fans are deep, and we have been burned before by off-season hype that vanished the moment the games actually matter. But by the time we are done here today, I think you're going to understand why what happened in this final week of Bears minicamp is about so much more than what we saw on the practice field. This is about culture.
This is about
chemistry.
This is about
a quarterback
This
and
is
a
about
head
a quarterback
coach
and a head coach who are finishing
sentences.
each other's
This
sentences.
is about a Chicago Bears team
that
is quietly, methodically, and with absolute conviction building towards something we have not seen here in a very long time. Welcome back to Chicago Bears Voice. Today we are breaking down everything, every highlight, every concern, and every highlight, every concern, every debate from the final day of Chicago Bears minicamp. Let us start with the headline, because if you took nothing else away from this entire offseason program, it would be this. Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are locked in together in a way that should genuinely excite every single Bears fan watching right now. Who get along. We are not talking about two guys who get along fine and have a professional working relationship. We are talking about a quarterback and a head coach who are seeing the game, speaking the same language, and pulling in the exact same direction with the exact same urgency.
The same way.
The quotes that came out of this final mini camp session are the kind of thing you screenshot and save because they tell you everything about where this team is headed. Ben Johnson said it clearly.
Are the kind of
His
thing
very
you
first
screenshot and
conversations with
save
Caleb
because
were
they
about
tell you
winning
everything
in
about
Chicago
where
and
this
winning
team is
Super
headed.
Bowls.
Ben Johnson said it clearly. His first conversations with Caleb were about winning in Chicago and winning Super Bowls. And Caleb has been clear and consistent with that message for the entire year and a half that Johnson has known him.
Then
that
Caleb
is not a
Williams
talking
went in
point.
front of the media
That is a belief
and said
system.
something that stopped me
And
in my
then Caleb
tracks.
Williams went in front of the media and said something that stopped me in my
literally
tracks.
Finishing
He
each
said that
other's sentences.
he and Ben Johnson
He
are
said
finishing
Johnson
each
brings
other's
wisdom,
sentences.
knowledge, and
He said
information that goes a
Johnson
long
brings
way,
wisdom,
and that he is
knowledge, and
110%
information that
in on
goes a
whatever
long
his head
way,
coach says.
and that he
Think about
is
that for a second.
110% in on whatever his head coach says.
This is coming from a phenomenal young quarterback who has every reason in the world to have a massive ego, to think he knows better or to push back. Instead,
from a
Caleb
third-year
Williams
quarterback who has every reason in the world to have a big ego,
to think he knows better,
to push back.
Now, here's the question I want you to
Caleb
sit with
Williams
for a
is
moment,
leaning all
because
the
it is
way
the kind
in.
of question that puts
And that
everything
right there
in perspective
is the foundation that
for us
championship
as Bears
teams
fans.
are built
When was the
on.
last time, and be completely honest
Now,
with
here is
yourself,
the question I want
when
you
was
to
the
sit
last
with
time
for a
that you
moment?
genuinely
Because
felt like
it
the
is the
Chicago
kind of
Bears
question that
quarterback
puts
and the
everything
Chicago
in
Bears head
perspective for
coach were
Bears fans
completely on the
specifically.
same page?
When
Not just
was
saying
the
the right
last
things for the
time?
cameras, but actually
And be
demonstrably,
honest,
visibly
when
on
was
the
the
same
last time
page in
that you
terms of how they
genuinely
see
felt
the
like the
game, what they
Chicago
want to
Bears
accomplish,
quarterback and the
what they are
Chicago
willing
Bears
to do
head
to
coach
get there?
were
For a lot
completely
of
on
us,
the same page?
the answer to that
Not
question
just
goes
saying the
back
right
further
things,
than we would
but
care
actually
to admit.
demonstrably,
We have
visibly
watched
on the same
quarterbacks
page
and coaches
in terms
who
of
seem to
how
be
they see the
actively
game,
working
what they
against each
want
other.
to accomplish,
We have watched
and what they
rigid
are willing
offensive
to
schemes that did not fit the quarterback's natural strengths.
do
We have
to
watched
get there.
awkward press
For a lot of us,
conferences
the
where
answer
you
to
could
that question
feel
goes
the
back
disconnect
further than
even
we would
when
like to
nobody was
admit.
saying anything
We have
wrong
watched
out loud.
quarterbacks and
What
coaches
Ben
who
Johnson
seem to be
and
working
Caleb
against
Williams
each other.
right now
we have
feels
watched offensive
entirely
schemes
different.
that did not fit
And
the
the proof
quarterback's
is not
strengths.
just in the quotes.
We have watched press
The proof
conferences
is in
where you could
exactly
feel
what
the disconnect
happened on the
even when
practice
nobody was
field
saying anything
during
wrong
the
out
final
loud.
day of minicamp.
What Ben Johnson and
Because
Caleb
even
Williams
on what
have
was
right now is
described
different.
as a lighter
And the
practice
proof
day,
is not just in the
Caleb
quotes.
Williams was
The
not
proof
in
is
cruise
in what
control.
happened on the
The
practice
media
field during
members
the
who were
final
present
day of
noticed
minicamp.
immediately how incredibly
Because
vocal
even on
he
what was
during the
described as a
2-minute
lighter
drill.
practice
He was
day,
driving his
Caleb
offense.
Williams was not
He
in
was
cruise control.
demanding
The media that was
absolute
present
precision.
noticed
He was
immediately
not
how
letting
vocal
anyone
he
take
was
a
during the
single
2-minute
rep off.
drill.
Not
He
even
was
on
driving
a day
this offense.
when the
He
coaching
was
staff
demanding
dialed things back a
precision.
notch.
He was not letting
Before we
anyone
move
take a
on to the
single
next
rep off.
major storyline
Not even on
from
a
camp,
day when the
I
coaching
wanna
staff
pause for just a
dialed
moment.
things back a notch.
We put an
And then
incredible
came the
amount
moment
of
that
hard
everybody
work,
is talking
long
about.
hours, and
Luther
dedication
Burden
into
thought he scored a
producing these
touchdown near
deep
the
dive
end zone,
documentaries
and he started
breakdowns for you.
celebrating while the
Every
clock
single
was still running.
subscription we
And
receive
Caleb
acts
Williams was not
as a
having a
massive
single
wave of
second of it.
motivation for us to keep grinding and delivering the absolute best Bears content on YouTube.
He got
If
right
you're
in
feeling
Luther
the
Burden's
energy of
face,
this new era,
barked at him to get
please
back
take
in
a
line
quick
so they could
second
spike
right
the
now to
ball,
subscribe
and
to the channel,
immediately
like this
refocused
video,
the entire
share it with
offense.
your fellow Bears fans,
Now, the reporter who
and
was
leave a
there,
comment
Zach
down
Pearson
below.
from the Bear
Let's
Report,
grow this
noted that the play
incredible
probably
community
would have been ruled
together.
a touchdown and
Your
a real
support
game
truly
anyway.
means the
But
world
Williams
to
was
us.
not taking
Now let's
any
get
chances.
back to that intense
because that is the
practice
point,
field
right?
energy.
In
Because that is
practice,
where we
you
saw
build
the
the
moment
habits.
that
In
everybody's
practice,
talking
you
about.
establish
Luther
what is
Burden thought
acceptable
he
and
scored
what
a
is
touchdown
not.
near the end
And
zone, and he
Caleb
started
Williams, in the
celebrating
middle
while
of
the
a light
clock
minicamp
was still
day,
running.
was
And Caleb
established
Williams was not having a single second of it. He got right in Luther Burton's face, barked at him to
without
get back
any
in line so they could
ambiguity
spike the
that
ball,
the
and
standard is
immediately
the standard
refocused the
every
entire
single time.
offense.
No
The reporter who was
exceptions,
there on the
no
ground
celebrations
noted that the
before
play
the clock
probably
stops.
would have been ruled a touchdown
That is
in
a
a real
quarterback
game
who
anyway.
owns the
But
huddle.
Williams was
That
not
is a
taking any
quarterback who
chances.
is ready.
Because that is the
Now let's talk
entire
about
right?
someone who
In
might end up
practice, you
being
build
one of the most
habits.
exciting
In
storylines of
practice,
the
you
entire
establish what is
2025 Bears
acceptable
season.
and what is not.
And that is
Caleb
Exavon
Williams, in the middle
Thomas.
of a light minicamp
Because
day,
if you have been
was
paying any
establishing without
attention
any
to what has been
ambiguity
happening
that the
throughout
standard is the
OTAs
standard
and
every single
minicamp,
time.
you
No
already know that
exceptions,
this young
no
man has been
celebration
turning
before the
heads
clock
at
stops.
every
That is a
single
quarterback who
practice.
completely owns
And
the
Ben
huddle.
Johnson
That
himself
is a
said
leader who is
something that
ready to
tells you
command this team.
exactly how the
Now let's talk
coaching
about
staff
someone who
views
might end up
Thomas.
being one of the
He
most
said if they can
exciting
harness all
storylines
his
of the entire
energy,
season.
Thomas
And
could
that
be a
is
big
Exavon
weapon
Thomas.
for this team this
Because
year.
if you have been paying any
When your
attention
head
to what has
coach
been
is
happening
using
throughout
words like
organized
big
team
weapon to
activities
describe
and
a player
minicamp,
who is
you
not
already know
even
that
locked
this young
into
man
a
has been
starting
turning
role
heads
yet,
at every single
you
practice.
need to pay attention.
Ben Johnson himself
Here is
said
what
something
makes
that tells you
Exavon
exactly
Thomas
how
so
highly
compelling
the
as a
coaching staff views
storyline.
Thomas. He said if they can harness all his energy, Thomas could be a big weapon
Right.
for this team this year.
It would be easy
when your head
to
coach
look
is
at the
using
depth
words
chart,
like big weapon to
see
describe
that
a
Khalif
player who is
Raymond
not
is
even
likely
locked
the
into a
front runner
starting
for the
role
wide
yet.
receiver
You need
3
to pay
spot,
close attention.
and
Here is what
write
makes
Thomas
Exavon
off
Thomas
as a
so
rotational
compelling as a
player
storyline.
who pops
It
up
would be easy to look at the
occasionally
depth
as a
chart,
gadget
see that
option.
Khalif Raymond is likely
But that
the front runner
framing
for the wide receiver
undersells
3
what
spot,
Thomas
and write
actually
Thomas
is.
off as a
Yes,
simple
he has
rotational
blazing
player
speed.
who pops up
Yes,
occasionally
he can take
as
a
a
jet
gadget
sweep
option.
and turn
But
it
that
into a
framing
house call.
severely undersells
Yes, he is a
what
weapon on
Thomas
special
actually
teams
is.
that opposing
Yes,
coordinators
he
have
is
to
blazing,
account for.
electrifying speed.
But what has
Yes, he
stood
can take
out
a
during
jet
this
sweep
offseason
and turn
is
it
that
into a
Thomas
house
is
call in
not
the blink
just
of
a
an eye.
one-trick
Yes, he
gadget
is an
player.
absolute
He
weapon
has
on special
flashed
teams
as a
that opposing
receiver in the
coordinators
traditional
have to
sense,
account for on every
running
single
routes,
kick. But what
creating
has stood out so
separation,
clearly during this
making
offseason
yards
is that
after the
Thomas
catch,
is not just a
and
one-trick
even
gadget
coming down
player.
with
He
diving
has flashed
catches
as
that
a wide
required
receiver in
real
the traditional
technical
sense,
skill.
running crisp routes,
The question
creating
for
natural
Thomas heading into
separation,
training
making
camp
big
is not
yards
whether
after
he
the
has
catch,
the talent.
and even coming
The
down
question
with
is whether he can
spectacular
force
diving
the coaching
catches that
staff to
required
find
real
ways to
technical
get
skill.
him on the field
question for Thomas
consistently,
heading into training
because his
camp
role
is
might not be a
whether he has the
traditional
raw
three-receiver
talent. The question is whether he can force the coaching staff to find creative ways to get him on
starting
the
spot.
field consistently.
It is going
His
to
role might
require
not be a
Ben Johnson
traditional
to be
three-receiver
creative,
starting spot.
to design
It is going
packages,
to require Ben
Well,
to
Johnson
find
to be highly
situations
creative,
where
to
Thomas's
design
particular
new
skill skill set
and to find situations where Thomas can explore specific matchups and create absolute nightmares.
And here is the thing about Ben Johnson,
which brings us to one of the more underrated stories of
his middle
this
name.
entire minicamp program.
They're taking it
And that is what Ben
brings us to
Johnson's
one of the
defensive
more
creativity
underrated
is signaling
storylines from
about
this
where this
entire
team
minicamp
stands
period.
and expectations are.
And that is what
During
Ben
practice,
Johnson's
Johnson has
offensive
actually been
creativity
offensive lineman
is actually signaling about where this Bears offense is headed. Because during practice, Johnson has been having offensive linemen run routes.
In real
and before
games,
you laugh that off as a fun minicamp gimmick, understand that this is Ben Johnson we are talking about.
When the head coach of your football
Used
team is
linemen
running
creatively
linemen
in
for
real
route
games
drills in the
before.
offseason.
Darnell Wright and
to
Theo
go out
Benedict
and
have
fix
caught
our
passes
He is
during
installing the
actual
fundamental
NFL
idea
contests.
in every single player's
When the head coach of
mind
your
that in
team
this
is running linemen
your
through route drills
responsibilities
in the
do not
offseason,
stop at the
he is
standard
not just
position.
trying to keep them.
He wants every player to understand what every other player is doing because that collective
Move
understanding
like.
makes the
He
entire
is
offense
installing the
smarter,
idea in every
faster,
player's
and
mind that in
infinitely
this
harder to
offense,
defend.
your
Opposing
responsibilities
defensive
do not
coordinators are going to
stop
have to
at the
spend
edge of your
countless hours
traditional
preparing
position.
for absolutely
He wants
everything.
every player to understand what every other player is doing,
has to prepare
because
for
that
everything.
collective understanding makes the entire offense smarter, faster, and harder to defend.
When you
Opposing defensive coordinators are going to have to prepare for
guys who can line up in creative formations and create those exact same
and when
kinds
the
of
defensive
matchup
coordinator has to
start to see
prepare
the
for
beautiful
everything,
picture
he
of what the
inevitably
Bears
leaves
offense will
something
become.
uncovered.
It is going to be fluid.
That is where
It
Ben
going to be
Johnson eats.
unpredictable.
And when you add
It is going to
DeAndre
force
Swift and
defenses to
Kyle
make
Mann to that
incredibly difficult
conversation,
choices.
guys
And
who
then
can
he's
line
going
up
to
in creative
ruthlessly
formations and
punish
create
those
those
choices
same kinds
wherever
of
they present
matchup
themselves.
nightmares.
The
You
foundation that
start to
was
see
laid
the
last
full
season was
picture
impressive.
of what this
But
Bears
what Ben
offense
Johnson is
wants to
building on top
become.
of that foundation
It is
this
going
summer
to be
could be
fluid.
genuinely dangerous.
It is going
now,
to
let's be
be
completely honest about the
unpredictable.
concerns
It
because
is
this
going
channel
to
is
force
not about
defenses to make
blowing
choices.
smoke or giving you blind optimism. The defensive injury situation remains a legitimate,
and then it is going to
question
punish
mark
those
heading
choices
into training
wherever
camp.
they present
Kyler Gordon's
themselves.
availability is
The
still one of the
foundation that was
biggest
laid last
unknowns on this
season
entire roster.
was impressive.
A healthy
What
secondary
Ben
is not
Johnson
just a
is
nice
building
thing to
on
have.
top of
It
that
is
foundation
potentially
this
the
summer
entire
could be
difference between a
genuinely
Bears
dangerous.
defense that struggles
Now
and
let's
a Bears
be honest about the
defense that
concerns,
perfectly
because
complements
this
what this
channel is
high-powered
not about
offense is
blowing
doing.
smoke.
The good news
The defensive
is that
injury
Jalen Johnson has
situation remains
reportedly
a
been looking
legitimate
exactly
question mark
like
heading
his
into
elite
training
self
camp.
again. A Pro
Kyler
Bowl level
Gordon's
Jalen
availability
Johnson
is still one of the
completely
biggest
changes the ceiling of
unknowns on this
defense in a
entire
very
roster.
meaningful way.
And a healthy
TJ Edwards
secondary
and
is
Demetrius
not just
Dotang
nice
are
to
both
have.
progressing well.
It is
DeMarco
potentially the
Jackson
difference
finally
between
got
a
back on the
Bears
field
defense
after
that is a
dealing with a mounting
liability
injury.
and a
The
Bears
health
defense that
trajectory is
complements
mostly
what this
positive
offense
across
is
the
doing.
board.
The
But
good
Jamar
news is
Turner
that
remains
Jalen
a
Johnson
real
has
pressing
reportedly
concern.
been looking like
Ben
himself
Johnson
again,
openly admitted
and
he does
Pro
not
Bowl
know when
Jalen
Turner will
Johnson
be back
changes the
following that
ceiling
tough
of this
ankle
defense
injury.
in a
For
very
a player who was
meaningful
highly
way.
expected to
TJ
contribute
Edwards and
as a
Dotang
versatile
are
edge
both
and interior
progressing.
presence.
DeMarco
That
Jackson got back on the
hurts.
field after
There was
dealing with
also
a
an
mounting
honest
injury.
conversation to be had
The
about
health
the defensive
trajectory
line
is
and the
mostly
significant
positive.
contracts that were handed out to Grady Jarrett and Dio, both of which have raised eyebrows among
But Jamar
fans who want
Turner
to see that
remains
money
a real
spent differently.
concern.
The
Ben
fair
Johnson admitted
counterpoint is
he
that
does not
Ryan
know when
Poles
Turner will be
structured
back
those
following the
deals
ankle injury,
beautifully so the Bears
and
can
for a
move on
player
without
who was
devastating
expected to
salary
contribute
cap
as a
consequences
versatile
if things
edge
do not
and
work out.
interior presence,
But the broader
that
point
uncertainty
stands.
hurts.
The Bears'
There was also the
defensive line
honest
is going to need
conversation
to
about the
prove itself
defensive
in
line
real
and the
games with
contracts
pads
that were
on,
handed out to
not
Grady
just in the
Jarrett and
controlled
Dio,
environment
both of which have
organized
raised
team
eyebrows
activities
among fans who
and
wanted to
minicamp.
see that money
Javon
spent
Dexter
differently.
himself
The
said
fair
publicly
counterpoint
that
is
the
that Ryan
defensive
Poles
line does
structured
not
those
need
deals
any
so the
outside
Bears
help.
can move on
Okay,
without
that is a
devastating
very
cap
bold
consequences
statement. And
if
the only
things do not
appropriate
work
response
out.
to a bold
But
statement
the broader
like that
point stands.
is to go out on the
Bears'
football
defensive
field
line
and
is
prove
going
it.
to need to
Being in
prove
the top
itself
third of the
in
league
real
in pressure
games with
metrics is
pads
solid
on.
production, but if Javon
Not just in the
Dexter in
controlled
this
environment of
defensive line want to
OTAs and
silence the
minicamp.
critics and prove
Javon
that this
Dexter
team does
himself
not
said
need an
publicly
additional
that the
edge
defensive
rusher.
line does
They're going to
not
have to
need any
perform at an
help.
even higher,
Okay,
more
that is a
dominant
bold
level when the
statement, and
lights
the
are
only
bright and the
appropriate
games count
response
for
to a
real.
bold statement like
Here is
that
what I keep
is to
coming
go
back
out
to,
on the
though.
football field
And this
and
is the
prove
part
it.
of this Bears
Top third of the
minicamp
league in
that I
pressure
think gets
metrics
heavily
is solid
underappreciated
production.
in the day-to-day
But if Javon Dexter
media
and this
coverage.
defensive line
The
want to
Chicago
silence
Bears got through this entire off-season program without adding any
the
significant
critics
new
and
injuries
prove
to the
that this
roster.
team does not
In a
need an
league
additional
where
pass
intense
rusher,
training and
they are going to
practice
have
can
to
end
perform at an
seasons
even
before they
higher
even
level
start.
when the lights
That
are on and
matters
the games
immensely.
count for real.
The Bears came into the spring with injury
Here is
questions,
what I keep coming back to,
but they
though,
did not
and this is the part
add
of this
new
Bears
ones to the
minicamp
list.
that I think gets
They kept
underappreciated in the day-to-day coverage.
They successfully
the Chicago Bears got through this entire offseason program without adding any significant new injuries.
That means they're going to
where
arrive
training
at
and
training
practice
camp
can
with
end
the ability
seasons
to
before they
actually
start.
compete, to actually
That matters.
push each other.
The Bears came in with
through
injury
real,
questions, and they did not add new
competition
ones. They
who
kept
truly
their veterans
deserves
healthy.
To be on this final
They
roster.
built on the foundation of last season without paying a physical price to do it.
About to become.
And that means
the
they are going to arrive at training camp
competition
with the
at
ability
left
to
tackle and the
actually
second
compete,
cornerback spot
to actually push,
is going to get
to actually find
real,
out through real
very
competition
fast.
who deserves
Special
to be on this
teams
roster.
Battles are going to
because
start
let's be
sorting
clear about what
out.
training camp
if
is about
Ben
to
Johnson
become.
follows
The
his
pads
exact
are going
blueprint
on.
from last year, there's going to be at least one practice, one absolutely brutal full speed, leave everything on the field.
The competition at left tackle and the second corner spot is going to get real very
exactly
fast.
What this team is
Special teams battles are going to
last
start
year,
sorting themselves
number
out.
11 on
and if
August
Ben Johnson
5th.
follows
Nobody
the
knew it
blueprint
was
from
coming,
last year,
everybody who
there is going
survived
to
it
be
came out
at
the other
least
side
one practice,
as a completely
one
different,
absolutely
tougher kind of
brutal
team.
full speed.
Whatever this year's
Leave
version of that
everything
practice
on the field
looks like is going to be
that is going to test every
appointment
single
viewing
person
for Bears
in that
fans
building
everywhere.
and reveal
And look,
exactly
I know the Bears
who
PTSD
this team is made of.
Incredibly real.
Last year it was
I
practice
know it
number
better
11
than
on
most.
August 5th.
I have felt
Nobody
it deep
knew
in
it was
my
coming.
chest.
And everybody
Every
who
single
survived
Bears
it
fan
came out
who
the
has
other
been watching
side a
this
different kind
franchise
of
for
team.
any length of time
Whatever
carries
this
a little
year's
bit
version of that practice
heavy
looks
weight.
like.
The
It is
false
going to be
dawns,
appointment
the
viewing
promising
for Bears
off-seasons
fans
that turned
everywhere.
into profoundly
And look,
disappointing
I know the
seasons.
Bears
The
PTSD
quarterbacks
is
who
real.
looked the part
I know
in
it
July
better than
until
most.
they
I have
completely
felt
fell
it.
apart in September.
Every Bears
All of
fan
that
who has been
history
watching
is
this
real, it is
franchise for
valid,
any length of
and
time
it shapes how we
carries
view this
a little
team.
bit of it.
But here's what I want to say
The
to
false
every
dawns,
single Bears fan
the
who is letting
promising
that
off
past
seasons
trauma
that turned
hold them
into
back from
disappointing
getting
seasons.
genuinely excited
The quarterbacks
about what is
who
happening right now. Ben Johnson is not a talking points coach.
Who looked the
He
part
is a
until
proving
they did
coach.
not.
He
All
came
of that
in and
history is
immediately
real,
established
and it is
high
valid.
expectations.
But
built
here
a
is
true
what I want to
culture,
say to
and
every
got
Bears
this team
fan
to a
who is
place where
letting
the
the
veterans are holding
PTSD
each other
hold them back
accountable without
from
the
getting
coaches
excited
ever having
about
to say a
what
word.
is happening
Caleb
right now.
Williams is not just
Ben
saying
Johnson
the right things
is
in
not
press
a
conferences.
talking points
He
coach.
is actively barking
He
at
is
his
a proving
teammates
it
on
coach.
light practice
He
days
came
to
in
maintain
and established
the
expectations,
absolute
built a
highest
culture,
standard.
and got this
Exavon
team
Thomas
to a place
is
where the
not
veterans are
just a
holding each other
long-term
accountable
project.
without
He is
being told
actively
to.
forcing one of the best
Caleb
coaching
Williams is not
staffs
just
in
saying
the
the right
entire
things.
league to
He is
figure out how to
barking
get
at
him more
teammates
playing
on
time
light
right
practice
now.
days
This
to
is
maintain
real.
the standard.
It is happening.
Exavon
The
Thomas
Chicago
is
Bears
not
are
just
entering
a
this
project.
season with more
He is forcing
legitimate,
one of the best
tangible
coaching
reasons
staffs in
for
the league to
optimism
figure
than
out
they
how to
have
get him
had
more
in an
playing
entire
time.
generation.
This
As we
is
wrap
real.
up this
It is
breakdown, I
happening.
want to remind you
And the
once
Chicago
again how
Bears
much
are
we
entering this
appreciate you
season
being
with
here.
more
We
legitimate
put so much hard work, heart, and dedication into creating these mini
reasons
documentaries,
for optimism
and your
than they have
support is
had
what
in a
keeps us
generation.
going.
So
Every
I am asking
subscription
you,
is a
join the
massive
conversation.
motivation for us
Let us have
to
this
keep
together.
pushing.
Because
if you have
this
not
is the
already,
whole point of the
please
Bears
hit
focus.
that subscribe button.
We are building
smash
something
the like
here just
button,
like the
share
Bears
this
are
video,
building
and
something
drop a
on that
comment below.
field.
Join
and
the
I need to know
conversation
what
and
you
let us
are
have this
thinking.
discussion
Are you
together
buying
because this
into
is
the
the
Caleb
whole
Williams
point
and Ben
of
Johnson
Chicago Bears
connection the way
voice.
I am?
We are
How big a
building
role
an
do you see
incredible
Exavon
community
Thomas
here,
playing this
just like
season?
the Bears are building
and what is
something
your
special
single
on
biggest
that field.
concern heading
I need
into
to know
training camp?
exactly what you're
Drop
thinking.
everything you
Are
have got
you
in the
buying
comment
into
section below
the
because
Caleb
I read
Williams
every single
and
one
Ben
and I want to
Johnson
hear
connection
from
the
you.
way I am?
And before
How
you
big a
go
role
anywhere,
do you see
if this
Exavon
video had
Thomas
you
playing
fired
this
up, if
season?
it gave you
And
something
what
to
is your
think about,
single
if it
biggest concern
scratched that
heading
Bears
into
fan itch
training
you have
camp?
been trying to
Drop
satisfy
everything you've
all
got in the
offseason
comment
long,
section below
hit that like
because I
button
read
right now.
every single
It
one
takes 2
and I want to hear
seconds,
from you.
and it
Training
genuinely
camp
helps
is
more
coming.
people find
The
this
pads
channel
are going on.
and be part
the real
of what we are
tests
building
about
here.
to begin.
Subscribe
and
if
Chicago
you are
Bears
not.
voice is going to be right here for every single moment of it. Bear down, Chicago. I will see you in the next one.